What's up guys, my name is Samuel Jake. I'm a Native American photographer and filmmaker based out of Utah. And today I'm going to show you about my R5C setup. I travel a lot and there's a lot of gear that I need to take with me, and I feel like I've created the lightest weight possible setup for both photography and filmmaking. So let's get into it. The R5C is my favorite camera, the best camera that I've ever owned, because it is the perfect hybrid camera, and barring the battery life being awful, it really is bad. If you use an LPE6 battery, not the N, the newest version, you get max like 8 minutes, and then with the N version you get like 20 to 25 minutes depending on the frame rate, and that's just not going to cut it in any situation, at least for me. And so those batteries are really expensive too, so I'm not going to go out and spend a ton of money on these little teeny batteries. And so I watched a lot of YouTube videos, I saw a lot of things that other people were doing, and this is the system that I have set up. But what I have is just the FX Lion, the Nano 1 battery. I just don't like having a huge rig. I want to have it as most compact as possible. And so what I did was I have this Arca plate, I think it's what it's called, and it goes on the small rig underneath, and then I have a V-mount assembly attached to that and the screws here. And then I'm able to just put on the battery on the bottom of it and have it be pretty much perfectly weighted, and it will sit still like when I place it down. And so after that, I can build, you know, a little rig with it for the video side of things. And this can be done in under a minute if you're slow, and if you're trying to do it quick, it can be done in 30 seconds or less. And so now I'm in full, you know, I have my wire that I would need to plug into the USB-C here, but I have a full weighted cinema rig. And then to top that off, on the adapter, I did the drop-in filter, and so I'm able to easily switch between ND filter, polarizer, and a clear filter in a matter of seconds. Unfortunately, the small rig cage has this jut out, and I'm not able to take the filter out as it's sitting in the camera, but I just ordered the new Blue Condor R5C rig, and they knew that that was an issue and they fixed that. So I'm really stoked for that, and I'm going to be replacing that with this small rig setup, just because not being able to take that out and exposing, you know, like if you're out, you know, I do a lot of action stuff and I'm on, you know, on the go, it's a lot easier. And then also it just would expose, you know, my elements and, you know, my sensor, and that's just not ideal. So when that comes, you know, that'll be a really awesome thing. But just being able to switch in between a variable ND filter and a polarizer filter in a matter of seconds is a game changer, and it works for any of my lenses. So like it goes on the back element, and so you don't have to worry about the front, you know, millimeter or whatever, 72, 77, you know, have to get step up rings or step down rings. And it's just awesome because you're able to just, you know, plug and play immediately. And so when I'm out traveling, when I'm out doing shoots or whatever, it's just really nice to be able to go completely from a photography setup, which is, you know, me just taking these things off and having, you know, a cinema rig, basically a full cinema rig. I'm shooting this on my C70, and, you know, the quality is pretty similar. You know, it's not exactly the same, but in the time that I've been talking, I've set it up to be just back into my photography rig, you know, and I can carry this around. And the internal battery is charged by this battery, and so like, even when I take this off, my internal battery isn't getting used, it's taking this, and so I'm always charged. And so the specs on this, like from what I saw from other videos, I haven't tried it out just because I don't really need to continuously record something for very long in a lot of my shoots. But this continuous recording can do 6-ish hours, and it's a super lightweight setup, you know. So for both of them, you know, with the cinema rig, you want to have a little bit of weight so you eliminate the micro jitters. This R5C is really cool because it doesn't have the IBIS, which I actually like because I do a lot of shots from the car, and the IBIS was making just like an unnatural like stabilization inside, and so they took that out. But they do have the digital image stabilization, and it's actually pretty good, especially when I have this rig. And so, you know, when I'm out shooting surfing or action shots of cars, or, you know, sports or skiing or whatever it is, like this setup I'm very excited about using that. And so I'm gonna talk a little bit about my lenses and my choices for lenses just for traveling. I have a specific reason as to why I use them. I have the 16 to 35 f4 image stabilization. Whenever I'm using a wide angle, I'm not really needing to have a 2.8. And honestly, the image quality with the vignetting that comes with the 2.8 isn't something that I care about, and it's actually kind of doesn't look very good. And so I think the f4 and having the image stabilization so that I'm able to take better video is better just to have, and it's a cheaper lens. And so that's the one that I decided to go with instead of the 2.8, which I did have, but I sold it to get this one because of the IS mostly. And then I have the 24-70, which is on my C70 right now recording me, and that's just a really versatile lens, just to have, at any time. If you are only carrying your camera around and you don't want to lug any of this gear around, the 24-70 obviously is going to be the most versatile. And then I have the 70-200, and then paired with that is the 2-time extender that lets me get it to be a 140/400. And then if I use a crop sensor, I'm even able to get more close up to my subject. And so that was really good for me using for surfing shots from the beach, just because I can't afford to buy a $7,500 plus R5C underwater housing, but I was able to get some really cool dynamic shots when I was in Hawaii because I had just these two lenses, and it's pretty small. I can fit this all into my little camera bag and take it anywhere. And so the last lens that I choose is like a prime lens that has low aperture, and so I'm able to have a shallower depth of field. I can shoot later at night, and then it's a 50mm, so it's right in the middle, perfect for portraits. I have my wide angle and everything to where I can use it for cinematic stuff, but then when I take pictures and I want that shallow depth of field, I think 50mm, this Sigma Art Prime lens is awesome. I own the 24, the 35, the 50, and the 85, and at least in this setup, it seems to be the best. The last thing I'll talk about with this setup is I got this little this little filter holder on eBay for like 25 bucks or whatever, and it's really nice. It just kind of clicks in and it holds my stuff and keeps it safe. The stuff that Canon sends you is like really chunky and big, and it doesn't make any sense to carry with you. And so, someone that made this, thank you. It's 3D printed or whatever, and it does the job. The R5C is my favorite camera that I've ever used, and with the limitations that it has with battery, I've found a really cool lightweight setup to where I can have a photography mode like I am now and then build it back into a video mode within 30 seconds, and I'm able to get at least 6 hours of continuous shooting on that. And it's really cool to be able to switch back and forth and have all this stuff. And fitting this into my bag, it's really easy for me to take around, but having the ability to shoot C-Log 3 10-bit and then have that 45 megapixel sensor for photography is like when they announced this camera, I was beside myself. I was freaking out. And so it's lived up to its expectations. It's made me fall in love with shooting again, and I love this camera. I love this setup, and it's gonna make me have the ability to shoot a lot cooler stuff, which I'm very excited for. So if you're interested in learning more about gear, reviews, tips and tricks or whatever, I do lots of different types of photography and videography and filmmaking, and so I'm going to be posting consistently. So if you like that kind of stuff, consider hitting the subscribe button and follow along on the journey. So thanks for watching.